Hi, kiddos. Welcome to For You Kids, where each day is a new adventure filled with fun and learning. Let's buckle up and dive into today's exciting journey together. Ready, let's go. The Little Squirrel and the Lost Little Fox. In the vast forest, there was an old tree, which was the home of a smart and cautious little squirrel named Sammy. He knew every path and every corner of the forest. Every day, he would happily jump between the treetops, searching for acorns and playing one early morning. As the sunlight filtered through the dense leaves onto the damp ground, Sammy, as usual, went on an adventure in the forest. Suddenly, he heard a low and urgent cry coming from the nearby bush. Sammy stopped and perked up his ears, listening carefully in the forest. Every sound could herald the beginning of a story. Sammy cautiously approached the crying, and suddenly, a little fox jumped out of the bushes with tears in her eyes, looking very frightened. The little fox's name was Fifi, well known in the forest for being mischievous. But she looked so helpless at that moment. Fifi saw Sammy and softly said, "Sammy, I've lost my way. I can't find my way home." Sammy saw Fifi, so upset, and decided to help her find her way back home. Sammy asked Fifi where she last remembered being. Fifi said she remembered passing a big rock and two crossed giant trees. But after that, she got confused and lost her way. Sammy thought carefully and believed they should start looking from the places Fifi remembered. As they walked, Sammy taught Fifi how to recognize the directions by observing landmarks, such as the position of the sun and the moss on the trees. Fifi found these methods both fascinating and practical, and learned them seriously. On the way, Sammy and Fifi found some animal footprints. Sammy explained that they were wild boar footprints and reminded Fifi how to avoid them in the future to stay safe. They even met Turtle Teacher by the river, who knew almost every animal's hole. Turtle Teacher told Fifi that her home was not far and that she just needed to walk along the river. Following Turtle Teacher's advice and Sammy's guidance, Fifi's fear reduced Sammy reminded her to remember the landmarks and the path home, so that even if she was alone, she wouldn't get lost again. They chatted until they could see the two crossed giant trees. Fifi felt very familiar knowing she was almost home, and a long-lost smile appeared on her face. As they approached the two crossed giant trees, a sudden urgent noise was heard. Sammy looked towards the source and noticed a young deer rushing through the dense forest. Sammy grabbed Fifi's paw, whispering, "Be careful. And let's hide quickly." They swiftly hid behind a dense bush and observed silently. It turned out a cheetah was chasing the deer in the jungle. The cheetah was very fast and quickly disappeared from their sight. Through this perilous event, Fifi realized the forest was full of dangers and felt Sammy's care and protection. She pulled Sammy's hand and gratefully said, "Thank you, Sammy. I could have been in big trouble today without you." Sammy shook his head with a smile and pointed ahead, saying, "We're almost at your home, look there. Is that the small river where you usually play?" Fifi nodded with excitement, recognizing the river meant her home was nearby. Moonlight shone through the forest's gaps onto the path as the two cautiously walked along the river. Suddenly, Fifi stopped and pointed to a patch of bushes in front. "That's a mark near our home. I remember now." Fifi led Sammy around the bushes and finally stood on the familiar small hill, beyond which lay Fifi's warm home. Fifi jumped with joy, spinning around happily. Suddenly she stopped and gazed at Sammy. "Sammy, you taught me so much today. I learned how to recognize directions, avoid dangers, and remember my way back home. I think these are important skills I should learn." Sammy nodded with satisfaction, delighted to see how much Fifi had learned from today's adventure. He patted Fifi's shoulder gently and replied, "You did really well, Fifi. I hope you'll be able to explore on your own in the future and always return home safely." As Sammy and Fifi were about to say goodbye, they suddenly heard a commotion not far from Fifi's home. The two immediately felt nervous and decided to find out what was happening. Sammy cautiously led the way toward the noise, and they saw several shadows wandering near Fifi's home. It turned out several wolves were trying to approach the entrance of Fifi's home. Wolves posed a huge threat to Fifi's family, as they often infiltrated homes of small animals in search of food. Fifi was almost breathless with nervousness, but Sammy calmly grabbed her, saying softly, "Don't be afraid, we can outsmart them." Sammy quickly came up with a plan. He asked Fifi to gather some dry twigs and stones, while he collected some scattered pine cones and leaves from the ground. They swiftly made some crude traps out of these materials, setting them up around the paths near Fifi's home. Sammy knew that if the wolves unwittingly stepped onto these traps, they would be scared away. After setting up the traps, Sammy and Fifi in the dense bushes and waited with bated breath. Not long after, a curious wolf indeed stepped on the branches of a trap, and the sudden snapping sound startled it. The wolf ran in all directions, causing the other wolves to panic and flee the area. Seeing the wolves retreat, Fifi felt very grateful. She hugged Sammy tightly. Sammy smiled and patted Fifi's back, saying, "Remember, courage and wisdom can always help us solve problems." Safely reaching Fifi's home, they found Fifi's family waiting outside. They thanked Sammy for his help and expressed their gratitude. Fifi's parents looked at Sammy with a heartfelt appreciation, saying, "Thanks to you, our home is safe." Amidst the joyful laughter at Fifi's home, Fifi's mother prepared some delicious berries and fresh juice. They all gathered around, sharing an impromptu celebratory dinner. Sammy sat at a small round table, listening to Fifi's family share their daily life. Feeling warm inside after dinner, Fifi's father brought out an old book with various forest animals and plants. A manual. He used to study forest knowledge when he was young. He turned to a chapter and showed it to everyone. It detailed how to recognize and avoid wild animals in the forest. Sammy and Fifi listened attentively, occasionally exchanging meaningful glances. Fifi's father explained in our forest life. understanding the environment in every nook and cranny and the potential risks is very important. Although today was full of dangers, it taught us a valuable lesson. Fifi listened attentively and realized she needed to learn more survival skill. Just like Sammy, to handle similar dangers in the future. Fifi's mother reminded them of an old saying, knowledge is power. The reason you both are safe today is due in large part to Sammy's intelligence and your cooperation. Fifi looked at Sammy, full of admiration and gratitude. Finally, Sammy shared his adventures in the forest from a young age. How he had accumulated knowledge and skills, bit by bit, allowing him to navigate the forest effortlessly. His story inspired everyone, especially Fifi, who decided to actively learn and master these survival skills. As night fell and the stars began to twinkle in the sky, the atmosphere gradually calmed down. They all felt safe and content, while Fifi and Sammy made a silent commitment to become stronger and smarter forest residents. Late at night, Sammy bid farewell to Fifi and her family and prepared to return to his old oak tree home. Fifi hugged Sammy tightly, gratefully saying, "Thank you, Sammy. It was great to have you with me today." Sammy smiled and patted Fifi's head softly, saying, "You're welcome. We're friends. And helping each other is normal." Fifi stood at the door, watching Sammy's figure disappear into the night until he was no longer visible. Then she turned back into the house, filled with anticipation for the future and the new knowledge she had gained. Sammy happily hopped along the familiar path, back to his old oak tree home. He climbed into his comfortable little nest, lying down contentedly, looking at the starry sky outside, feeling the serenity and harmony of the forest. This day's adventure not only deepened the friendship between Sammy and Fifi, but also taught them many valuable survival skills, indicating that they would become wiser and braver forest residents in the days to come. Thanks for joining us for another great adventure. Remember to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next exciting video. We can't wait to see you again. Bye for now.